All right, y'all, the Enchiridion Part 2. So, how do we align our thinking in accordance with the world, with nature, right? With the way things are, so we can live in peace and conformity with it? But I think there's a famous Plato quote, "For what else is being miserable but to desire bad things and secure them," right? You think you want popularity, you want to be a celebrity? Well, I tell you, there's many a celebrity who have gotten there and told the world, no, it's miserable. It's bloody miserable. Uh, so, you know, these things are interesting. Where were we? Men are disturbed, not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things. Death, for instance, is not terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. But the terror consists in our notion of death, that it is terrible. When therefore we are hindered or disturbed or grieved, let's not attribute it to others, but to ourselves. What do they say? 99% of the things we worry about never happen. Yeah. There's a great Seneca quote: "Death is so little to be feared that through its good offices nothing is to be feared." For what do we fear in life? We fear sickness, illness, death, imprisonment, bad reputation, slander. Hey, death is the great panacea. All that stuff goes away. All the worldly ailments and suffering. So why grieve about it? I'm the last Socrates of the moment, but I love my Socrates. Uh, when he was near death, or they were going to put him to death, all his disciples gathered around him, and they were like, "Are you afraid? Are you afraid of this?" He's like, "Oh, heavens, no! Like I've been spent most of my life like wondering like what happens after we die, right? Because one of two things happens, right? Either nothing happens and this adventure is over, or something else happens, something different, and I want to be fully ready for it when I cross over." Yeah. And he was just a real adventurer, right, of inquiry and the pursuit of the unknown, right? For he truly believed that questioning the unknown makes you stronger, braver, more resilient, and a better person. And to a large extent, I think it's hard to disagree. There's a rumor that Aldous Huxley took lysergic acid on his deathbed, which would be quite a way to pass over, or wherever we go. But anyway, consider when, on a voyage, your ship is anchored. If you go on shore to get water, you may along the way amuse yourself with picking up a shellfish or an onion. How amusing. However, your thoughts and continual attention ought to be bent toward the ship, waiting for the captain to call on board. You must then immediately leave all these things, otherwise you will be thrown into the ship, bound neck and feet like a sheep. So it is with life. If instead of an onion or a shellfish you are given a wife or child, that is fine. But if the captain calls, you must run to the ship, leaving them and regarding none of them. But if you are old, never go far from the ship, lest when you are called, you should be unable to come in time. I mean, these are dark. It's a dark thing, but he's saying, hey, just know that this happens to everyone. And if it doesn't wreck your life when you find out that someone else dies or someone else lost loved ones or got sick or had an accident or an injury or got cancer, then you have the mental capabilities. I'm not saying it's easy. But you have the mental capabilities to disconnect yourself and say, hey, if it happens to others, it can happen to me. And I want to not only do the thing, I want to do it with my mind in a state of conformity with the world around me. Yeah. Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well. I said much the same thing earlier, but it's true. If you go to the store wanting, fresh oysters and cheap lobster and steaks just off the cut, but you're at some, crap country store, you're not going to get it, right? So you have to go there with your mind geared toward, what am I likely to find here? I might need to change my grocery list, right? And then you won't be upset or peeved or whatever, Sickness is a hindrance to the body, but not to your ability to choose, unless that is your choice. Lameness is a hindrance to the leg, but not to your ability to choose. Say this to yourself with regard to everything that happens. Then you will see such obstacles as hindrances to something else, but not to yourself. Never say of anything, I have lost it, but I have returned it. Is your child dead? Very morbid, I know. It is returned. Is your wife dead? She is returned. Is your estate taken away? Well, and is it that likeness returned? Likewise returned? But he who took it away is a bad man. What difference is it to you who the giver assigns to take it back? While he gives it to you to possess, take care of it. But don't view it as your own, just as travelers view a hotel. Begin, therefore, from little things. Oh, this is good, friends. This is good. Don't you dare try practicing stoicism for the first time when your life goes to absolute, the ditches. Yeah? Start with something small, something manageable, right? Is a little oil spilt? A little wine stolen? Say to yourself, this is the price paid for equanimity, for tranquility, and nothing is to be had for nothing. When you call your servant, it is possible he may not come, or if he does, he may not do what you want. But he is by no means of such importance that it should be in your power to give you any disturbance. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Knowing about pop music and sports and all the drivelry and the Kardashians, right? Don't wish to be thought to know anything. And even if you appear to be somewhat important to others, distrust yourself. For it is difficult to both keep your faculty of choice in a state conformable to nature, and at the same time acquire external things. But while you are careful about the one, you must of necessity neglect the other. So he's really saying, he's making a hard case. And I think for a long time, I sort of thought, no, you can do both. You can be a stoic and be a man of your word and align your thinking with the world and still have nice things and ride along and get along with people. The older I get, the more I question that. I think I'm not smarter than the ancient Greeks and Romans. If you wish your children and your wife and your friends to live forever, you are stupid, for you wish to be in control of things which you cannot. You wish for things that belong to others to be your own. But if you wish to have your desires undisappointed, this is in your control. Exercise, therefore, what is in your control. He is the master of every other person who is able to confer or remove whatever that person wishes, either to have or to avoid. Whoever then would be free, let him wish nothing, let him decline nothing, which depends on others, else he must necessarily be a slave. Oh, this is a good one. Remember that you must behave in life as at a dinner party. Is anything brought around to you? Put out your hand and take your share with moderation. Does it pass by you? Don't stop it. Is it not yet come? Don't stretch your desire toward it, but wait till it reaches you. It's such a Buddhist thing. Do this with regard to children, to a wife, to public posts, to riches, and you will eventually be a worthy partner of the feasts of the gods. But if you don't take even the things which are set before you, but are able even to reject them, then you will not only be a partner at the feasts of the gods, but also of their empire. For by doing this, Diogenes, Heraclitus, and others like them deservedly became and were called divine. So, for those of you who don't know, one of the early philosophers was a man named Diogenes the Cynic of Athens. And he thought that all human artifice just made us miserable. And the more we could live in the state of nature and eschew all the things of man, the happier you would be. Yeah? And he would live in wine barrels in the streets with dogs. And he would live like an animal, basically. But he was very smart. And he would mock Socrates and all the others. And he was such an ass that he would go around in full daylight carrying a lantern. And everyone would go up to him and be like, Diogenes, like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm looking for a real man. I'm looking for a real man. Not some of these like fakes who are fitting in and just doing what they can for power and advantage. And along came a gentleman by the name of Alexander of Macedonia, Alexander the Great. And he came before, I still want this picture. Someday I'll get the real thing. And he came before Diogenes, when Diogenes is basically naked in a wine barrel. I mean, looking like a homeless person, right? And Alexander the Great was like, Diogenes, like, I am Alexander the Great. Like, name what you want, and it is yours. And I'm mentioning this because we just read this thing, like, if you can not accept anything at the dinner table, right? Nothing that others can give you is something you want. And truly, you are a great man. He mentions Diogenes and Heraclitus. But so Alexander the Great's like, Diogenes, name what you want. And Diogenes is like, could you step out of my sunlight? Like, all I want is for you to get out of my sunlight. Like, I literally don't want anything. You're the wealthiest, most powerful man in the world. I don't want anything you have. Yeah? Now, that is a gangster. Okay? And that's basically what he's saying here. He's like, if you can do this, man, you can do anything. Remember that you are an actor in a drama, of such a kind as the author pleases to make it, if short, of a short one, if long, of a long one. If it is his pleasure, you should act a poor man, a cripple, a governor, or a private person. See that you act it naturally, for this is your business, to act well the character assigned to you. To choose it is another's, right? Play the cards you're dealt as well as you can. We're all dealt a different hand. Not everyone's dealt an even hand. Everyone knows that, right? Some people are smarter, stronger, prettier, taller, richer, right? But I've seen so many people with hands better than mine who have played them far worse, and I've seen people with shit hands just play them so beautifully, brings tears to your eyes. And I bet you guys know people too who have been given everything and squandered it, and people who had very little and they worked at it and they worked at it, and now you're like, damn, how'd they get? It's crazy. All right, not too many more, but I love this stuff. What do we got? Let death and exile and all other things which appear terrible be daily before your eyes, but chiefly death, and you will win. And you never entertain any abject thought. You will never entertain any abject thought, nor to eagerly covet anything. All right, what else do I want here? There's one or two others. The will of nature may be learned from those things in which we don't distinguish from one and each other. For example, when our neighbor's boy breaks a cup, or the like, we are presently ready to say, these things will happen. Be assured, then, that when your own cup likewise is broken, you ought to be affected just as when another's cup was broken. Apply this in like manner to greater things. Is my wife or child or another dead? There's no one who would not say this is a human accident. But if anyone's own child happens to die as presently, alas! How wretched am I? But it should be remembered how we are affected in hearing the same thing concerning others. A mark is not set up for the sake of missing the aim. So neither does the nature of evil exist in the world. There's an old Plato made this argument that evil only occurs out of ignorance, right? That nobody actually chooses the worst thing. Because if they're doing the wrong thing, if they're lying or cheating or stealing or killing, they think it's going to result in a good outcome, yeah? But it's only because they don't know how it's going to affect them, how deep down at the base of the universe we're all one entity. Deeply you are connected. Just in the same way that we know that the trees in the forest, their root systems all talk to each other. All of them, yeah? And deep down, if we could see our true self, if Atman could recognize himself and see how he's the extension of Brahma, those great moments of unity with the divine, as it were, we wouldn't do the wrong thing. We wouldn't lie, we wouldn't cheat, we wouldn't steal, we wouldn't kill, and that really, as long as we get our thinking in line with the way the world works, no one can hurt us, no one can harm us. I mean, we can be in pain, but we don't attach ourselves to it, right? You are something separate. And so I urge you to read more of this, and I'll put up a link to something else. I mean, there's some good, such good stuff. But I thought it was a good tie-in to deontology and an argument of duty, right? Why live according to duty? I mean, Kant had his idea of the categorical imperative, right? The principle of the ends, which bears out, but it just doesn't seem like it has as much real life teeth or like, booster in it as Stoicism, right? Because Stoicism truly, maybe I'll put a link to Admiral Stockdale, who he became a prisoner behind enemy lines, I think World War II, and he wasn't in control of his body. He wasn't in control of his person. He had to change his thinking to align with, all right, what is in my control? What I say and what I do. That's it. My body's not in my control. My reputation's not in my control. My things aren't in my control. And it's a remarkable tale. So, sorry to be long-winded. I hope people found benefit in that. I truly, truly do think Stoicism is one of the great Swiss Army knives for life, and more to come.